It was just one of those days, man, with the kids.
Man,
Just
tell me about it, dude. Tell me
but it
about it.
happens. But yeah, all good today, man. Been doing some gardening this morning, moving some bits around in the garden, getting ready for the spring.
Wow, you guys back in the UKKK. This month you don't know how lucky you are, boy. Back in the UKKK. It's a cool time to be in the UK, huh? I must admit, that was the thing that I've made me fall in love with England. I don't know whether it's the same now, but when I first came to England and I experienced April, I was like, oh my gosh, this is so sweet. It's like it's a little bit cool by what I'm used to, right? Like being an African. But there was something so particularly quaint about it, you know. There's something about the clouds in April. Yeah.
Yeah, what I
In
love
England.
most about the change of season, because not everywhere has the change of season. Some places it's like very similar, the weather, and I just love the air when we have the change of season, especially from winter to spring, like as the sort of like new life starts emerging. Like you can kind of, it's just the kind of energy of like the sun sort of slowly starting to come back, starting to get a little bit warmer. There's more life, like you can hear the birds and stuff, and things start to emerge in springtime. I just love the feeling that it has in the air, you know. Any change of season, really. Even autumn to winter, summer to autumn. Summer to autumn is a nice one too. I quite like the winter to spring and then the summer to autumn. Those kind of like those kind of bridges of the seasons, you know, the sort of shift.
Totally, brother. And I get exactly where you're coming from. Like South Africa, we don't really have it. But what we do have is we just have like a really nice, like, general, you know, it's just generally bloody nice. Like, but there's something about the change of seasons that's quite sort of mystical in its own way. I also think I'm just sharing this onto a couple of groups just while we're getting ourselves cranking here.
Oh yeah, by the way, I have about half an hour to an hour in this room, and then I'm gonna move to the other room. I thought I'd rather set up in here, have a bit of time in here talking, and then I'm gonna have to move to the other room when Bodhi gets back. So just giving you a heads up about that.
I completely get you, man.
I
prefer the little stallion.
Yeah, I prefer being in here. It's like a bigger space, like much bigger windows, more light in the bedroom. Yeah, it's chaos in there. So you know,
Bodhi's like a year and a bit behind Josh, isn't he?
No, Bodhi is 4.
Oh, no, not Bodhi. Sorry, Ori's a year and a half behind Josh.
Yeah, so Ori is 7. So he's 7.5, Ori.
Yeah, okay, I get it. So Bodhi's like still very, very young. But my experience is like when they start getting towards that age, they start getting erections.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And like, while that sounds like all good and well on the surface, with it comes a little bit of an attitude, you know?
Yeah, well, that's
like, I can get an erection now, so no. You know, they start challenging you.
Yeah, well, there's that, and also when they're trying to go for a wee for the first time, well, like with an erection, it ends up like they end up weeing everywhere. So been training him to, like, you know, you got to like lean over, point it down.
Are you preparing him before the day, just so that when it happens, he's ready for it?
What, going to the toilet with an erection?
Yeah, well, I mean, because it's interesting. Like I saw my boy with one, like was 8 months ago, and his mom kept wanting to shower with him, and I said to her, listen, he's going to start getting erections soon. She was like, no. And she came in and he wasn't wearing pants. I said, what's going on there? to his mom, and he was like, no, don't look at it, don't look at it. And I was like, what's the problem, Josh? What's wrong with that? There's nothing wrong with it. It's just you,
exactly.
you know.
Yeah.
But he got all shy about it, and I was like, wow, it's interesting that he got shy about it, because, you know, I've never said anything that would make him shy about. I've never mentioned it, you know. So who knows? These kids, the internet, you know, they're on their own little frequency these days, and that is sort of how that works. Okay, so let's do this. I've sent out a couple of little group hits,
Awesome.
and I can't quite see what's going on here. For some reason, can't quite seem to see that well. But anyway, it is what it is. We've got 6 people in the space with us. Welcome. Namaste. I hope you guys are all smiling. I hope the world is treating you sweetly and providing you with plenty of fresh coconuts. As the saying goes, it's the Bush Whisperer saying. I just made it up. I'm not quite sure what the coconuts represent. I think they represent being well hydrated. And we are here to help you become psychologically well hydrated, hopefully, sharing a few ideas of information that can inspire and get you thinking. So Artemis, wow, Artemis is such a beautiful story. There are a lot of stories of Artemis. Obviously, child of Zeus, right? The huntress, right?
Don't forget the daughter of Leto as well, because that's important to do with Mars, which we can talk about in a bit. I found out this morning her mother was Leto, and it's like, yes, I know that name, Leto. 30 Seconds to Mars, the Tron Ares movie, Blade Runner movie. It's all connected.
It keeps coming up, doesn't it? And that is interesting that you mentioned that. The reason I mention Jupiter as well, because Jupiter is this engine of expansion, right? So we're talking about Artemis expanding our horizons. Our horizon is on Earth, and now we're expanding it to Mars. Did they really go to Mars or not? I wouldn't be surprised if this is our first real journey to Mars, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's not. In fact, I'm like on the fence, because I just don't know which BS to disbelieve anymore. So I'm like, yeah, just if it came from that channel, just disbelieve it. Who said it? The government. Yep, it's probably BS. And that's just where you can be fairly safe to know that you're more often than not going to be right, I think. However, there's a lot of money riding on this. There's a lot of money being invested into this. They're apparently testing their craft to see whether it can take them to Mars, which is funny. Like, they built a craft and now they need to test it. Like, you would think they've been doing it for a while. Namaste, Howard. How you doing, man? I hope you're well. You would think they would have done that by now, wouldn't you?
Well, the last time, you've got to remember, with craft is just creating. It's not a spacecraft. That's just like the Fuguzi, whatever. This craft is to do with our psyche. This is symbolic. So what we know is true is that these moon landings, going to the moon, what does the moon represent? The moon is our emotions, our subconscious. This is the craft. This is the craft that they're doing. This is the whole energy crisis that they're causing. It's to do with our emotional body, manipulating our emotions, and it's just to do with, like, basically it's a vampire system which has leaked into this realm, and NASA, the Nazis, they're all a part of that, and it's all a show. Like, so I haven't really looked too much into the moon landing itself. I do know that one of the crew is called Christina Cock, so Christ in a cock, which is quite funny. And there's people have done great videos with the whole moon landing and stuff, but I haven't looked too deep into that, because I only go by like the symbol, the myth, the etymology, the psychology, the philosophy, I don't care. Like, I don't want to get into did they go there, did they not, all of the mechanics of the green screens and stuff, because people do that. But what I understand is that this is a psychological operation, of course, done on April Fool's Day. At the same time, we've got this energy crisis while they're just burning fuel. It's a psychological operation, and the craft is psychological manipulation. It's dark magic, of course.
I know Christina's going to love the way you took her name apart. She's going to love you forever. Christina Christencock. She's going to love you, dude. Like
Probably not her real name.
Astrail Naught, you know.
Or
yeah,
or astronaut, as in astro nothing, because they're not going to astro, you know.
Exactly. You know, I personally don't think that to get to the bottom of that, I don't. If I were to lean in a direction, I would say I don't think they're actually going there. But I do think that, like you say, there's a psychological program happening, and I do think that that, you know, like you mentioned, the moon. The moon is obviously to do with the unconscious. Specifically, the moon rules the process and activity of sublimation. That's the sublimating of our awareness into the unconscious field. So it's about taking the awareness from being awake and conscious into the unconscious. We call this dreaming. We call this daydreaming, right? To travel through the unconscious. It's a proverbial journey. It's really at the root and at the core of shamanism. And it's the first step towards transformation, I would say, you know. Well, no, the what drives transformation would be an element of destruction. But then once that driving has started, the first active step that we take is the step of sublimation. Because then we're like, okay, crap has happened. It's not working. Something's wrong. Something's changing. Something's got to change. How do we work with this? Okay, let's look within. And so we look within ourselves and we start to go into the actual unconscious field of ourselves, where we start to evaluate the parts of ourselves that we can't see actively. We start to question, you know, our own motives, our own directives, our own objectives, our own conditioning, our own elements of belief structure and what we think, and the way in which our mind plays tricks on us in games. And I think so that is very relevant when we're looking at just what's going on. You speak about the energy crisis. There's also, you know, the Aryan crisis happening on the planet at the moment, right? Where the Aryans go to the root of Aryanism and drop bombs, right? The Irans are being, like, there's that crisis happening. And interestingly enough, like, we had this cool conversation. Cosmic, I was bantering with Cosmic. I love Cosmic because we can disagree and have like a disagreement, but it's all good, you know. Because, like, I don't think everybody should always necessarily agree. And if there's something you feel strongly about, then there's something you feel strongly about. There might be a reason for that. But you know, this whole confrontation with Iran, I notice how there's so many truth speakers, truthers. There are not many truth speakers, but there are a lot of truthers. Let's just say that, right? And there's so many people. Namaste, the star. How are you? I hope you're good. Red hands, yellow heart. Red, yellow, red heart. Heart, yellow, red hands. I caught you red-handed with a yellow heart, the star. I hope you're smiling. But yeah, you know, the what was I going to say? Oh yes, the Aryan War. The Aryan War. People aren't focusing on something that's really important. Who is defending this planet against AI at the moment? Do you know why this war is happening? Because they touched AI. They started hitting some of the big data centers, right? And the data centers are not just for AI, but the data centers control the flow of our private information. That's the heart of AI, right? When they are hitting those structures, which they hit in the the fake king's country, right? The fake king who like women shouldn't drive, you know. When they hit those data centers, we're talking a lot of money, and we're talking a lot of setback potentially for the plans of the implementation of AI. Now, we know that the AI is our friend, and they built AI to help us and make the world a better place and make our lives more joyful so that we got more time to go shopping. And obviously that's just like very tongue in cheek. But the reality is that who is it that's standing up for humanity right now? And this is going to sound like a weird thing, but the Aryans, the Arianians are the only ones that have got the koanas, those big round jingling, dangling, dongling, dingling, bang, bang, clang, clangers, to actually say, you know what? We don't agree with what you're doing on Earth, and we're going to do what we can to slow you down. And we're going to slow you down economically with your flow of black blood, of the Earth's blood, the oil. And we're also going to hit those data centers. I mean, if it were up to me, I'd be like, data centers, like, I'll vote for you guys if that's your mission. Like, I'm on board, man. But the propaganda then is that they're hiding their soldiers behind schools. And this was a conversation I was having last night, and I'm like, like, actually, when you look into it, every naval base has a school. Isn't that interesting? I didn't really pay attention to this fact, but naval bases tend to have schools in them, at least one. And then if 1 or 2 schools on base, they'll have schools orbiting around it. What is that about? Not just naval, I mean military bases.
Yeah, I was of course part of that discussion on Telegram as well, and yeah, it's a tricky conversation to have because it's not about being right or wrong or this or that. It's about like there's two forces at play, and but like what's behind it all? Like the way I see it, as Iran didn't attack anyone, they've been attacked. Why have they been attacked? They don't have a Rothschild banking system. I've spoken to Iranians here in England, and because I went to a shop and they had a dragon brass knocker, and I was talking about dragons, and they remember Tartaria because it was part of their empire. They remember the black dragon, and our dragon here, the white dragon, Albion, long forgotten. They're trying to wipe out history. This is like rewriting history. So that's why they have to bomb and decimate places like Palestine, Lebanon, all of the Middle East. It's a takeover. Iran has blocked OnlyFans. They don't have OnlyFans there. I mean, that's good. That's good because you could. It might be an oppressive regime, an oppressive system, but somewhere that doesn't have OnlyFans and somewhere where the majority of them don't drink alcohol, that's good. If you look at the soul of people, if you look at the soul of like the Western world, like people drinking all the time and, the rampant like online, like child porn and OnlyFans, that's something which needs to go. There's not much being done about that. Epstein files, what's been done about that? Well, what they've done is they've gone to Iran, a place where they seem to not have OnlyFans, not drink alcohol and stuff, and they've attacked them. So, whether there's schools near naval bases or not, like America has still bombed those places. So I understand Cosmic brought up the fact that there's schools by naval bases, and they are. Your mic's muted, by the way.
Sorry, do carry on. And I was listening to you after America. I was just letting my girlfriend know that I'm on a live because she tried to phone me, and I was just like,
yeah. So my point is that Iran is becoming like a scapegoat. The fact that they have a school near a military base, that military base or school didn't do anything. They're the ones that have been attacked. Why are they being attacked? Really, and it's this system, this AI artificial like vampiric system, because it is a vampire. Like with a vampire, you have to let them in. There's so many reasons why I think that COVID came from a bat to a human. Bats are associated with vampires. A lot of stuff with that was about following the rules, and we didn't actually have to. It was just about falling in line. This whole there was the Nipah virus as well, which is another bat to a human, which they tried pushing in January, didn't take off. It's all to do with draining our energy, because at the crux of it, what this is about is if you slight side weave here, but if you look at how Biden was walking and how he was acting, sometimes he didn't even speak. I 100% believe that was a robot. Because if you look at, there was Melania did a speech recently with Macron's wife, and there was this Tesla 3 bot, like this robot. It moves exactly the same way Biden did. What I see happening is them trying to merge machines with humans. And to do that, you have to be soulless. You can't just accept this AI dystopian future while you still have your soul intact. There's so much psychological warfare. These Epstein files, releasing them at a certain time, but only releasing half, not doing anything about it. War with Iran, which started in the year of the fire horse, when we have so much Aries energy. Of course, there's a film called Tron, Aries, the new Tron movie with Leto, the singer of 30 Seconds to Mars. And in that, it's about bringing this AI into this realm. It's not about going there, it's about bringing it here. And this is what this moon landing is about, and us going to Mars. We're not going anywhere. This realm here, I don't, perhaps there was a time when we could go to space, whatever, a lot of stuff's gone on. But all of this talk about going to the moon, going to Mars, it's to bring this energy of Mars here. And from photos I've seen of Mars, which I don't believe they're actual photos of the planet, the symbolic element I'll look at is there doesn't seem to be water there. There doesn't, like, I believe that this same virus which destroyed the plane, which is Mars, has now come here again, and that this is a kind of ancient AI, an ancient egregore thought form, but they need us to bring it into existence. They need us to bring it into matter, and to do that, they have to destroy all of the old ways. You can't have people not drinking alcohol. You can't have people not watching porn. You can't have people talking to their neighbors. You can't have people united. You have to divide them on race, gender, this, that, white people, brown people, this country, that country. So this is what it's all about, psychological warfare. And when people say, oh, they've got an oppressive regime, so we've got to go over there and do this. It's like, who are we to go to another country and tell them how to be? Something was shared about the Native Americans being barbaric or whatever. Look, so what? It was their land before people went over there and did horrendous things to them. I'm in England. I'm Celtic. The Roman Empire came over here and did horrendous things too. Like, I just wish people would stop going to other countries and messing with them. Like, leave places be. Stop crossing into other countries and stop interfering. That's what I think the crux of it is that they have to spread all of this war and fear and spread this mind virus. Because if you have places like in the Middle East, doing their thing, not aligned with the kind of Western mind, that could potentially halt this artificial takeover. That's my 2 cents on the situation, really. But yeah, I think we should detour back to the moon landing, genetic engineering stuff. It's all linked, but I don't really want to talk too much about like Iran and stuff. Like, it would be good to talk about the fact that there's a lot of Aries energy at the moment. Fire horse, of course, there's going to be war. Because this is so multi-layered. It's so layered. We have multiple layers that ripple out. I want to try and get to the layers outside of this realm, because I think that's where this stuff comes from. And if we're able to tap outside of what's going on, if we're able to get out of matter and tap into the spirit, tap into the subconscious, kind of see how we're programmed and manipulated, then we're able to bring spirit into matter, because that is really what these technocrats want to do. Is they want to create a bridge so that they can bring things into matter, and they were going to use us as vessels to do that via our etheric body, via our horsepower, via our chi, via our energy. This is what this energy crisis is all about. They want to sink their teeth into it so that they can basically do to this realm. They want to basically drain this realm, get rid of all of the water. That's how I see it. That's why, I'll just finish on this. That's why data centers have so much water. It's not to cool them down. It is in the matter, in the material, but really it's about collecting all of this memory and information from this water, from the earth, from us, because this AI is basically trying to map our brain. It wants to latch onto us, and to do that, it needs to get as much information as possible. And it doesn't just do this via technology, via us. It can do this via water as well. I'm 100% certain of that this is next level quantum computing, that they can use water to tap into other realms, create a bridge and bring in light through that water.
Hallelujah, brother. And I think there's a lot of truth to everything that you're saying here. And I want to speak on what you've said, and there is a link to the things that you said before, to the things that you said now, to the topic of the things that we will say, that we're here to say. The past, the present, and the future shall collide. They shall collide here, and they shall collide now. For here is the new now, and now is always here. So, Iran, the Aryan, right, going outside there to change them. That's on the outer level, on the macrocosmic level, is a spell, it's a ritual, it's a rite. While doing that, they have to sublimate. They want to take this information into the unconscious, and they want to fiddle around in the unconscious, bringing information and putting information. That's the water. The water flowing through the unconscious is to bring, it's like a filtration system between for information to move through the barrier of conscious to unconscious to conscious. And unconscious and conscious are both parts of the consciousness spectrum. And the consciousness spectrum is a spectator sport that we enjoy here as a matter of fact in the world that we call the fact of matter. And sorry, I always laugh at my own jokes, silly as they are. But I do think, sweet brother, I get you. I do think that there's this powerful correlation here for us to observe. And the act of going out there to change their regime and using bombs to generate fear. They did this on the internal level with the injection bombs in 2020 through 21 and 22, right? They wanted to go in there, right? To change them in there, same idea. And they had injection bombs that they would launch And it was all about creating an engine of fear. And it had a lot to do with the reprogramming of our consciousness and our unconscious. That whole regime, as a lot of evidence has come up, people have experienced a lot of shifts in consciousness, and their awareness and their mentality has changed, as well as their ability to produce children. That has gone down. I read the stats out in a previous roundtable. That whole story that is in courts all around the world, it's been pulled up. There's no doubt that the Project Vox a Nation, we will Vox the nation away, was definitely an attempt to shift the brain chemistry as well as the physiological chemistry to produce illness in the body, because there's a lot of money in curing illness. Let's not even pretend that the corporations that make these vaccinations aren't looking at their future finances. Like, well, if a whole lot of people get sick in the process, well, we will then make medicine to help them, and these people will be on medicine for the rest of their lives. So it's we're talking billions of dollars if we look at it as a global reaction. And it's not just the people, but their offspring. Let's bring that back. But there is also this aspect that in the process of shifting our consciousness and bringing us to the brink of this dynamic situation, right, that they want us to be afraid. And so obviously this Aryan war, the fear is being triggered big time, right? Because how are they triggering the fear? The price of oil. They are using this war with Iran as an excuse to crank up. Like, I had people who are working in the shipping industry explaining to me that the oil companies are able to make more profits now. And this is because this person is a client of mine, and they actually are partners. They own a shipping company with a group of people, a small shipping company, and they've been trying to get in on shipping other things, or they've been shipping food products, for example. And but what they did say was, like, they didn't want to go into the oil route, because even though there's a lot of money in the oil route, and at the moment that is the big one, right? And from what their data has shown them, the oil companies are making more money, which is really interesting. How could the oil companies be making more profit now than what they were before? Well, it seems to be the case, because they're allowed to. So the oil prices are being unnaturally hiked, and they are using that as an excuse. So maybe the oil prices would have hiked a bit, but they thought, well, let's hike it more, because it creates hype, it creates fear. People won't know whether they're going to be able to afford the cost of living, because hyping the oil costs will produce an inflation on every level. Everything from the price of coal, electricity, products, food, everything has to travel around. It's because they use oil. So I think this is all being engineered to reprogram us on a very fundamental level. And now that we see the space race, right? This I don't know what to call it. Is it a joke? Whatever it is. This has also become like a major tool. And the interesting thing is, apparently, like, a lot of the young people, they don't really care. It's not even a big deal to people, which is also quite interesting. I think it's a test. I think it's a psychological test. It's like a probe into the unconscious. Like, how much are people paying attention to what's actually going on? Are people becoming numb because they're being overwhelmed with too much information? And the data centers being under attack, is this really an expression of Artemis's power? Now, what is Artemis, right? So the story of Artemis is quite interesting, yeah? I mean, there's lots of stories of Artemis actually out there. But one of the stories of Artemis, which is probably a really well-known one, is, firstly, Artemis has got a relationship with women and children, right? Artemis protects children. So I think like we've got to bear this on the side of the corner here, right? The fact that this moon launch has happened just at the same time that this whole Epstein file story is like, it's blossomed up to like maximum potential. And now they're launching a spacecraft, and Artemis has got a special relationship with children. Doesn't Artemis also have a relationship with protecting manhood? Am I right or wrong? The genitalia?
I haven't heard that. No, I haven't. I know another name for Artemis is Diana, and I need to find what this film's called, because we watched this Hoppers. So I was telling you about a cartoon we watched the other day, like a kids cartoon. It's called Hoppers. It's about transferring consciousness from humans to animals. Well, there's this scene in the movie, and there's this giant shark called Diane, and it tries to kill this human driving a car in a tunnel. And Princess Diana was killed in a car crash in a tunnel. And all throughout this movie, they kept repeating, "We're all in this together." Do you remember where we heard that during 2020? We're all in this together. So this movie's been released along with the moon landing. So the moon landing is to do with the subconscious, the subconscious mind. So there's always programming in movies and stuff. And I pointed it out to the family. And then, like this movie's got obviously the consciousness transfer. There's this fake tree which is put up, which emits its frequency, which only animals can hear, and it gets all the animals to disperse. The main character is a beaver, and the beaver is important in this because it's the beaver that builds the structure or the dam, which brings in the water and the flow. So in this case, the beaver acts as a channeler to channel and bring the water in, and then this frequency basically gets all these animals to disperse. And it's just interesting because the whole thing with the shark called Diane and trying to kill this human in a car in a tunnel, that has to have some kind of subconscious, like, it'll bring up some emotions for people. So we'll keep on repeating about 10 times, "We're all in this together," because that will trigger memories of 2020. So I certainly found that interesting, because with this moon landing, what I sense would happen is that there's just going to be a lot of psychological trauma going to be coming up, a lot of subliminal programming, a lot of like messing with our emotions, which there have been for a while. And I missed the part that you were mentioning to do with bombs, and you mentioned with Iran and bombs, and like the deeper part of that, and to do with our psyche or something. Can you remember what you said there? Because I'm really annoyed I missed that bit.
Okay, so basically what I was saying was that there's three elements there. So the bombs in Iran is to change Iran, the same as the bombs which were injection bombs to change them in our arms and in our bodies, them the DNA, right? And then the psychological bombs that they've been dropping on us to change us and our ideas, with all of these leaking of this information, the Epstein files, and all of this coming together at a very crucial time where the AI is like a bomb to change us as well. So it's like all of these elements sort of coming together in the idea of a bomb. And it's sort of like the idea of a truth bomb, but it's a serum, not a bomb.
Yeah, absolutely. I've been thinking recently that that with what happened in 2020 was to do with our I know I've heard you mention that the cart and the bar are different with men and women. like to do with the water and the fire. But what I sensed with what happened in 2020 is that was about our bar. That was to do with our identity, and really our soul, because there was a lot of cult-like behavior. Somehow they managed to warp that, and I was interested to see if that had anything to do with the astral or the emotional body, which is outside of the etheric. Because in my understanding, the reasons for this is event 201 is boa, 201 is BOA, B0A, like a boa constrictor. Also, it could be bar. So it's in the name, bar. And all of this 6 feet apart and self-isolating, that has to affect our emotional body, or our bar, or our dreaming or imagination. There was people got brain fog here, so no critical thinking. I think that in my mind's eye, that was to do with our bar, and then now it's to do with our car, and then the car being related to the etheric body, of my understanding so far, which is our vital essence or life force. And this is the whole energy crisis. And I think that we have layers, and they have to weaken layers to get inside of us, to merge their nanotech with us. So it's on multiple levels, so that perhaps we feel okay with this AI system of like this, everything being fake and grey and dull. We need to be okay with that. So we need to kind of have our souls extracted, or perhaps they want to merge with our DNA. Because I went on a podcast, I think it was maybe almost a year ago now, and I was saying that what I sense happening is that there are beings that want to latch themselves onto us so that they can exit this realm. They want to try and latch onto us somehow so that they can exit this realm and pretend to be us, basically. But what I understand now is that these beings don't want to leave this realm. They want to come into this realm, and they want us thinking that this realm is flawed. They want us to think this realm is flawed, and they want us to think that we're going and we're leaving this realm. No one's leaving. This realm is perfect, and we need to get that into our heads so that we want to protect it, and we need to protect it with our spirit. We need to protect it by bringing things into matter, letting our energy ripple out to create a layer, the atmosphere. Like, the atmosphere is all around us, but it's in the air, it's the ether, it's the weather. We are the ether. The weather is the ether. It's everywhere. And we need to kind of all together, collectively, put our differences aside and basically remember that this earth is the Holy Land, no one specific place. This earth has everything we need, but they want us to be separated, divided, cause war in our minds, separated minds, separated peoples. They want us to hate this place. They want us to not have children and bring children into this realm, because they're making artificial wombs, amongst other horrendous stuff as well. But I think what this all comes down to is that this realm is perfect as it is, and they're trying to create a distortion so that we're okay with this AI kind of dystopian future. This is why they cause this wars. This is why they do all this horrendous stuff and probably amplify it. This is probably why the files were released. That's probably why they want us thinking that everybody is horrible, everybody's evil. Don't talk to your neighbor, don't let your kids play outside, otherwise they might be taken by a man in a white van. That was a thing. That is a thing. And then what's happened now is children don't play outside, so they're at home on their screens, sort of hooked up to technology. That's happening on a much broader scale. Like, watch out for your neighbor because they're evil. Just stay at home. Don't travel anywhere. Just stay in your 15-minute city. what we'll do is we'll look after you. We'll use AI because AI is going to be your new savior. Elon Musk is going to be supplying the UK with electricity this year. But first, there'll be a cyber attack and they'll say it was Iran. So then people will start hating Iran. And then they'll be more okay with dropping more bombs. This is how it continues. They do a false flag and then give you the savior.
Yeah, it was David Icke that coined the phrase. What was the phrase? Let's get the phrase right.
Problem, reaction, solution, I believe.
Exactly, problem, reaction, solution, and it's exactly what we are, what we're observing here. And I think there is no easy solution. It's like something Star was saying a moment ago, and they're completely right. And I want us all to think about this for a moment. Why can't we all just live together? What is the matter? Like, why is it like this? Now, I don't think it just is like this, right? I don't think it just is like this at all. I think that I think it is like this for a reason, right? It's been coordinated like this because we didn't get here by not cooperating. We didn't get here where we are as humans by not working together. We didn't get to this level of civilization and technology and wisdom and knowledge and all that we have. That didn't come about with separate little people in little working on their own little pods. People work together. And because people work together, we've achieved great things. And we're definitely going backwards. And this is like interesting. You mentioned the Aries earlier, and I think like we should tap into this. Like, what is it? 6 planets are going to be aligned in Aries. I think on the peak is on Saturday, is it?
The 17th. I think it's 7 planets as well. If you count
is
the
it
moon.
7?
It's like the moon,
okay, the moon as well.
Chiron. Yeah, like Chiron as well. And Chiron's
okay, so Chiron's not a planet, but Chiron's important. Yeah.
Because it's the wounded healer,
Exactly. We did a whole show about that. Go and check out our history. We went into Chiron. We unpacked Chiron. We got him with his kit off. You want to see Chiron with his kit off? Go and check out the previous live. It's out there. It's I think it's like about 3 weeks ago, we unpacked Chiron and we got him to show everybody what his tackle looked like. People were like, yeah, go Chiron, go. Maybe it was like a month ago. But that's really interesting because okay, so we're everything's moving into Aries. Now, Aries and Mars is the profound time of transformation. So on the Enneagram, if we look at what Mars, the planet, represents, right? The Mars, and this is like what I call the real Enneagram. I'm very cheeky. I have decided that the other one I'm going to call the ideogram, right? There's a little bit of a play on words there, but an ideogram is a symbol that is representing an idea, right? And since I can't handle a house that something that can't turn. For me, if something can't turn, it can't change, it can't transform, it can't adapt, it can't evolve. If it can't adapt, it can't transform, it can't spin, it can't change, then it doesn't reflect reality. Then it's a psychological construct, which to me is dangerous. Because in life, the one sure thing is transformation, change, and keeping up with the flow of change. So that's why I don't accept that other Enneagram as a true Enneagram. Just to point out, and I was asked this the other day by Zerilat, and I thought about it, I meditated on it, and what connects all of the Agrams, the pentagram to the, septagram, to the hexagram, to the Enneagram, to the dodecagram, to the, all the different Agram things is you put your line, your pencil or your writing implement onto a surface. You make 1 straight line, 2 straight lines, 3 straight lines, 4 straight lines, 5 straight lines. If you do that and you make sure that they are all following the same change, you end up with a symbol. So if you do 5 straight lines and make sure that the 5th point will end up where the first point started, making 5 lines, you've drawn a pentagram, and it will automatically go in a circle. Because there's only one way that you can make 5 equal lines on a piece of paper with a pen or a pencil, that the beginning and the ending are 1. There has to be a pentagram. The same thing for a septagram, the same thing for an octagram, the same thing for the hexagram, right? And I mean the true hexagram. I don't mean the 2 triangles. I mean the hexagram, which is, so when you have that line of influence, so the true enneagrams are the yellow, right? Are the yellow and the blue. Those are the true enneagrams, the yang and the yin. The yellow represents the relationship between the two, represents the relationship between all of the powers, represents the 3 principles, the 3, 6, and the 9. That's what. So the reason I have the green in there is the green is essentially, if you look at the green, it's 3 triangles. It's 3 sets of 3. And each set of 3, the first set of 3 adds up to 9, the second adds up to 6, the third set of 3 adds up to 3. And those 3 sets represent the 3 fundamental states. We're talking alchemy. Then you've got the yang and the yin. The yang and the yin is a blue enneagram. That's a true enneagram, right? And the yellow enneagram, that's a true enneagram. You've got a masculine enneagram and a feminine enneagram. You've got yang and yin here, right? So yang and yin plus the 3 fundamental states, which is a fusion and a union, which involves a triangle, which is a 3. So it starts with 1 line. If you're going to draw 3 equal lines that begins where it ends, it has to be a equilateral triangle. There's no other way to do it, right? And if you're going to do 3 of those equilateral triangles to represent the principle of 3 and 6 and 9, this is the key to manifestation. But the key to manifestation has to happen between the polarities of yang and yin. Give and take, energy. So that's really what we're looking at here. This is a very profound symbol of occult sort of meditation, what we've got here, if we want to understand the functions. And then again, you've got the tarot, the feminine tarot elements and the masculine tarot elements that are within the feminine field of the serpent. The tarot, the major arcana, is essentially feminine. But within that, there are elements within the feminine that's masculine, feminine, and within the masculine, feminine are feminine. So within feminine, you have a full set. The same as within masculine, you have a full set. So there's the double yang yin happening here in the structure, which is very subtle, lots of different associations. So when you look at this here, I must be careful of not losing my place. When you look at these images and see just exactly how they sort of play out here, you can see the number 9. 9 is Mars. So numerology of 9 is Mars. It's universal wherever you go in the world. That's the fact of what 9 represents. It has nothing to do. I want to point out to you that 9 is not a peacemaker. 9 has never been a peacemaker. 9 will never be a peacemaker. 9 does not carry the vibration of making peace. 9 carries the vibration of transformation. 9 is about change. Scorpio, ruled by 9, ruled by Mars, the house of transformation and change. Aries, ruled by 9, ruled by Mars, is the initiator of change. Hence, the new year, the beginning of a new cycle, is Mars, Aries. But the culmination of the transformation of that new cycle finds its peak in Scorpio, right? Aries, Taurus, Gemini, right? And Cancer, Leo, Virgo, Libra, right? Hold on. Virgo, Libra, Scorpio, right? What do we notice here? 7 signs away. 7 signs away. Why is Scorpio and Aries 7 signs away? Scorpio is the 8th sign, but it's 7 away from. So the octave of 7 is being bound between Aries and Scorpio. There's a reason for this. It's not an accident. And so the power of 9 and Aries is transformation. Aries is the action that moves towards creating transformation. Why is Aries the god of war? Well, in ancient times, how did you transform the world? War. Usually a king had to be displaced. How do you displace a king? He loses a war. When the king loses the war, what happens? There's a reform. There's a new king. There's a new leader. There's a new plan. There's a new situation. There's a new way of life. It always starts with a war. So war is symbolic not of just people out there like chopping at each other. It's symbolic of that profound beginnings of transformation that is represented by the number 9 and the power of Aries. So then when we look at this and we can see quite clearly, right? When we see this, we see the number 9 has a relation to the number 8. And I'm going to show you how. The mystic power of 8 lives within 9, right? This is why Scorpio is the 8th sign of the zodiac, right? But is 7 away. The octave of 7, which we can see are the 7 hermetic principles on the right, which is the foundations of the astral space, the astral plane. And you were completely like, I agree with you that the bar is very much related to our emotional conditioning, to the emotional state. We are first and primarily emotional beings. And after being emotional beings, we are beings that think. We define ourselves in the West as being thinking beings. I think, therefore I am. But actually, that's a little bit of a non-clutcher. I feel, therefore I think. Why do I think? Because I feel. What is the impetus to make us want to think? Feeling. So behind every thought, there is a secret feeling. Behind every man, there is a woman, right? If a man is going to reach success, it's because his mother or a woman in his life has given him that empowerment to be able to do so. It's a big part of being ourselves as a man, right? For a woman, behind every woman, there's a man. The father would have given that woman the sense of masculine energy so that she knows what kind of man to attach herself to. That's how the woman finds her strength and her success. So the woman's success comes from the essence of man, and the man's success comes from the essence of woman. And this is like the key to the harmony of being, of the balance. So yes, you know, the right-hand side here I see as the astral, the 7 principles of Hermes, and the left-hand side I see as the etheric. And here we have the etheric ruling over space, foundation, structure, eternity, harmony, limitation, space, form, potential, unity. That is like how the universe is structured outside. But internally, we have inspiration, intuition, memory, imagination, will, desire, sensation. These are the formative elements of our being. And so number 9, very interestingly, right? When we look at what 9 represents, it represents foundation, right? It's the end of the cycle. And so you want to break through that foundation, you got to go through 9. You got to change the foundation to change something, right? Gender, very important principle that relates to the number 9. However, Mars is also plugged into the number 8. Why? Because 8 represents industry. 8 represents the will being enacted, right? 8 represents, or not the will being enacted, but the impetus to move us towards will. So desire is very powerfully associated with number 9. This is why 9 people are very sexy. They're very sexy. Scorpio, very sexy. Aries, very sexy, right? They are driven by sex in a big way. People don't realize this, right? If you're a guy and you enjoy sex, get an Aries girlfriend or a Scorpio girlfriend. Ding! You'll never be shortchanged. Get an Aquarius girlfriend, dude. You may as well just say, I'm done. Tapped out, mate. Celibacy, here I go. Woohoo! You know? So that's just how that is. You know, the Aquarius girlfriend would be like, she'd be like thinking profound thoughts and having cool conversations. It'd be like, should we get our kit off? Yeah, but did you think about this? You know, I've never really gotten on with a Aquarius woman in that kind of a dynamic. Personally, probably because I've got 9 in me. I've got a lot of 9. Like I'm quite a sexed up guy. I've been celibate a lot in my life, but when I do it, I like to do it. And it means a lot to me. So our identity is related to desire. Sexuality in the core of our desire is what is the harbinger of change, right? That the same desire that causes you to want to have sex, right, is the same desire that drives us towards sexuality. It's the one and same thing. And that desire, which is coming from an emotional point, right? Why do we have sex and fall in love and get emotional about someone and get feeling, and the feeling drives us to an emotional connection, which is telepathic with another human being. Sex, rational thinking is a whole nother story. The rational thinking, that's Saturn, that's Saturnian, that's Mercurial Saturnian energy, right? And so it's a different sort of element to look at. And so 9 becoming this powerful house, Aries means we are now going to kick the door down of change. We're going to start the cycle. And now here we are with absolute new cycles coming. The AI is coming to rule our world, right? The A is number 1. The I is number 9. 1 is the initiator, 9 is the transformer. Put the 1 and 9 together, what do you get? Potassium. Potassium, the sun. The sun, number 1. The ruler of our egos, that aspect of us which wants to shine outwards. How do you manipulate that? You manipulate the sun using the power of the moon, because the sun is so busy shining outwards, he's not looking inwards. So you cannot dominate a solar character, but you can manipulate them very well. You cannot dominate an Aries character, but you can manipulate them really well. You cannot manipulate a Pisces character very easily, true Pisces and true Aries, because none of us are true or pure of one thing. We're all mixed. But a true Pisces, you cannot manipulate, but you can dominate. So these elements of understanding how these forces work of subtlety and masculinity, I think, are the key. And all these planets being aligned in Aries, that now they are putting us into outer space, fiddling with the unconscious, doing a test to see where we are at, how we're reacting. How many of us are going to stand up and go, ha, 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 Hollywood basement, here we go, number 2. How many of us are going to actually just go, another one of this nonsense, and just like turn the page, you know? They want to see this is all part of data collection. And the fact that Iran is challenging, I think, is also part of a powerful thing, because you speak about energy, right? The energy crisis is because of this Iran conflict, which has got to do with a subtle ood towards Aryanism. And so the Aryanism is really like what's on display here, right? This is a racial war of white against not white. Am I right or am I wrong?
Sorry, my mic was muted. Yeah, absolutely. But let's go further than that. This is about humans and non-humans, and the demonization of humans by the non-humans. And that's why in America they're called illegal aliens. And I found out yesterday that it's the 47th anniversary of the oh God, what was it? I've got so many tabs open here. So 74. It's the 47th anniversary of the establishment of the Islamic Republic in Iran. So 47. That's an 11. With the, Charlie Kirk, there were 3 hats: 47, 47, 47, which we equals 33. Trump is the 47th president. He's doing this in the 47th year of this Iranian revolution, which is very, very interesting. That there are the same numbers, and also
Can I add?
Yep.
Can I add the fact that he's the 47th president means he's the 47th season of presidency, because each presidency lasts for 3 years.
What do you mean?
Well, if he's the 47th president, right, each season is a different presidency, right? No?
I'm not sure what you mean. Each season, like,
well, a president sits in for so many years.
Okay.
But if he's the 47th president, then that's the 47th season of presidency, because each presidency is a new season. I just thought I'd add it, but please just carry on, bro.
Yeah. Well, I just wanted to connect the other 47, which in America would be Independence Day. The 4th of the 7th, or the 7th of the 4th. The reason I bring this up, because in America, in 2024, they had a blueprint for digital bio, whatever it's called. We've spoken about it before and I've shared it. Digital bioconvergence or whatever, basically mixing, because of a virus or a terrorist attack or something like that, how do they link digital and biometrics and stuff? So that ran in 2024, and it was supposed to happen on Independence Day of 2024. And it was about a Nipah virus, which comes from a bat to a human. It's very similar to COVID. Vampires, again, bat to a human, trying to sink their teeth in. And the simulation also ran chemical attacks in underground stations in America. So I'm just sharing this. If something happens on Independence Day, which is, there was a film about aliens, Independence Day, Blue Beam. Project Blue Beam isn't just a fake alien invasion. We're in the alien invasion. It's called an AI invasion. There aren't aliens coming. There are beings already here which want more of their kind to enter this realm, and this is the soulless, and they want us to be soulless too. So we got to remember that calling people illegal aliens is playing into their trap. Like, what a horrendous term to call other humans aliens. So they've weaponized this language against us. There are aliens here. Yes, there are beings not from this place, for sure. But I just thought that was interesting. It's the 47th president, the 47th anniversary in Iran. And then I was like, what could the other 47 be? And I thought, 4th of the 7th or 7th of the 4th, Independence Day. So I had to link that together, because this might happen and then they'll blame it on Iran. They run false flags all the time. Here in the UK, 7/7 bombings, they ran a trial. There was a knife attack on the train from Durham to London. A month before that, the police did a scenario. We had Pegasus, which we've spoken about, scenario, and then there was an outbreak. It's like they run these things first. They test the water, so to speak, and then it happens. So, thought I'd mention that. I lost track of what else I wanted to say. I kind of went off on a little bit of a slightly off topic then. Can't remember what I wanted to say, but I'm sure it will come back to me.
I'll just add that when I said season, it was wrong. And thank you, Rob, for correcting me. The word is term. And I think that when you add the word term in there, it's got a lot more sense to it, because this is defining how we speak, the meaning of words. They've
Yeah,
been
and
defining our terms for the last 43 terms.
yeah, and a term is a turn. It's like their turn is their term, and it's the turning of the wheel of the cycle of the false matrix of just going round and round and round. Oh yeah, this guy will be different. Like as soon as we get someone else in there, it's going to be different. It's just this perpetual loop that people are stuck in. Um, yeah, I wanted to say with Aries, I'll post this in the comments because sometimes with wordplay it's difficult to hear that it's a different word. But with Aries, Aries, you have the god of war, which is spelled Ares. So if you play around with it, Aries, it sounds like errors, and then it sounds like erase, and it sounds like arise. So this is all to do with the phoenix, and this is to do with alchemy, the nigredo, the blackening, and then being born from the ashes. So the season of Aries there's errors that we have, and then we can dissolve, erase them, and then we can once again arise. And these aren't our errors in the world. This I don't know what's going on, whether I don't really buy into the whole this is a divine plan. It's a divine plan that Palestinian children have been killed and stuff. That's what some people say in the spiritual community, that it's all just part of the plan. Trump's just playing his part. Bullshit. I don't buy into that. I don't know what's going on like
It,
outside, you know, but
it
this
is part
we
of a plan, though. An evil
yeah.
master plan.
Well, exactly. Yeah. And that's part of this like white false light of like, oh, just let it all be, just let it slide, just let the world do its own thing. And it's like we are more powerful than we're given. If we just ignore things, that's ignorance, that's being blind. And if we actually observe and if we actually see like, yeah, this is not okay, this is a broken system, we can't just let these puppets get away with that stuff. At least we can do is call them out and talk about it. And then you'll find that people don't want to talk about it. They're like, oh, I've got my own stuff going on. This is what the energy crisis is. This is what draining our energy is. Because if you don't have enough energy, if you're struggling to pay your bills, struggling to fuel your car, your vital essence, forget about your vehicle you drive. This is our vehicle in this realm. This, our body, and we have the etheric body, we have the car, the essence, the life force, the chi, our energy. That's what we need to be fueling. And I think that's what we need to focus on, is that we might not be able to stop all of the problems in the world. Like for so many years when I was a kid, I was just wanted to like do something to help to help with like the monetary system, to help with all the corruption in the world. Then I went down a path of drugs and alcohol, and then here I am rising again after years of being on autopilot. And then all of the stuff that I felt was going on when I was a kid, I'm now learning about it. It's like as a child, like all this stuff's going on, but you can't comprehend the esoteric and occult, like the behind the scenes, the programming, all of this stuff. So now I found all of that. It's like a breath of fresh air, because now I understand the mechanics and I'm working out how to sort of convey this kind of pretty simple thing, which is easy to see in our mind's eye, but another thing to bring it from the formless into form, into matter, and talk about it. It's a process. But I think that what we can do is fuel each other. It ties into currency, because the financial system is collapsing. This is why they need a war to try and prop up their failing system. But our real currency is our essence and our life force of what we are. So doing things which stoke your fire, which stoke your creativity, your wisdom, and which fuels your spirit. And we can do that with each other as well. And it doesn't cost any money. All it costs is to acknowledge and to see someone for who they really are. Because so many people in this world, children, are not seen. And this virus is focusing on the children now. This AI, if people, grown-ups, adults want to use AI, go use it. But this is way deeper than that. Think of like, I'm 34. People like slightly younger than me may remember a time when there weren't phones. We used to go outside, climb trees, play, be free. These children now, this is not okay what's happening with this AI, this artificial. Melania Trump saying that the future is going to have AI teachers, machine teachers. We can see where this is heading, you know? And I just want to bring back bring it back to that film Hoppers that I watched with the beaver, because the beaver represents structure. We were talking about that earlier this morning. The beaver's to do with structure. It builds a dam, but it's this kind of symbiotic nature, like symbiosis with nature, where it allows water to come in and it channels. The beaver is a channel. So if beaver is to do with structure, structured water is around our red blood cells. It's like a protective layer, a protective barrier. As soon as you get rid of the structure, get rid of the water via signals, for example, perhaps via like 6G, because 5G and even LED lighting to an extent dehydrates us. But by getting rid of the beaver, this structure, we become kind of like easier to manipulate. We're easier to manipulate if we don't have structure. And this structure, it looks like a hexagram. This atomically, the structured water, exclusion zone water, looks like a hexagram. And that's why that symbol is a symbol for magic, like the hex. And this is why it's been weaponized against us, like language and words have been weaponized against us. The weird, the root, the core of words of what they are, the weird, our fate. This is what it's all about. What is our fate? What is our destiny? What's our potential and purpose? Because we're given this false narrative that humans are a virus, we're the problem, we're causing climate change, don't have kids, this, that, you know. At the same time, artificial wombs are being created, artificial food in labs. Like, that's not the future we want. We need to start rolling the dice, start casting our own fate, tap into the well of the weird, the well at the root of Yggdrasil, the world tree, the tapestry. The tap is the tree. And when we start tapping into the tree, what's a tap? A tap is a channel. We can turn the tap, and then we can tap into, and then we can be channels for like unknown potential and things and thoughts that are beyond this realm, because everything in this realm was created by a thought. And this ties into the this ties into the manipulation, the programming to make us think that we're useless eaters, we're soulless, all of this bullshit, that we're creators. And we need to remember that, start tapping into this world tree that we're a part of. We're seeds of it. Seeds to grow needs mem and ori, water and light. We've been given a false light and the well is poisoned. Well, the well may be poisoned, but there's using the matter, the material realm, there's about 3 times as much water in the core of the earth than on the surface. They hide this from us. They tell us that there's not much water in the core. Water is created in the core of the earth. Water is created in the core of our hearts, the core of our being. That's why it's a vortex, because a vortex brings in the raw texts of the words, of the words, and the raw tech, the technology of language and symbols that we can tap into when we tap into this world tree, our roots. This ties into, I think it's the Iron Soft, maybe, the Black Sun, Rupus Negro, Black Rock. That all of our energy is going to these corpse operations. You know, these corpse operations are being ran by our energy. It's extraction. So hopefully all of this collapses. It may be difficult for a while, but we just need to remember that our true currency is already inside of us. Sometimes it needs to be ignited because it's buried deep, our gold, our spark. But what a beautiful thing to see it ignited in other people and to see people's perception change about the world themselves, the realms beyond. But what we're given on the screen is we're going to the moon. Why are we going to the moon? What's the purpose? Oh, to go to Mars, to forget about this realm. You know, let them do that. Let them burn their money away. But it's a shame that it's tethered to our energy, this monetary system. If it was them doing it, go do it. Go on, leave the realm, whatever. But this is deeply connected into our inner space. It's not just outer space. Using the moon, our emotions, using the psychological manipulation. Same with going to Mars. I really think it's bringing the energy of Marduk here. I think it relates also to the is it the Igigi or the Nephilim, the fallen angels, which are 200 coming from Mars? Okay, all this stuff in the past, is it happening now? Are we rewriting history right now? The past, present, and fate is all. The past, present, and future is all one. This is things that have happened in the past seem to be happening now. These myths and stories and stuff. And what my point is, what I'm getting at, is Grok, I've heard, is one of the Nephilim or a Gigi or whatever. The symbol for Grok, this AI, is a black hole. Black holes take in light. They take in information. They take in light. Yeah, they don't emit light. So this Grok isn't giving people information. It's taking information. All of this AI isn't here to give us information. We're giving it our information. We're giving it our energy, basically. That's what's going on. We're feeding it. This is an egregore thought form, but also it's material. It's materialized, and we've been building it. I'm going to stop rambling in a sec and let you talk, but you can see AI on the dollar bill. You have an A, a pyramid, and you have an I at the top. If the A is the one, is the pyramid, pyramid, fire in the middle, the sun is the number 1 on the enneagram, the pyramid is the sun, perhaps. And perhaps at the peak of that is the number 9, which is the action, which is Mars, which is the transition, which perhaps relates to Marduk, which perhaps relates to Mars, which perhaps relates to the Gigi, which perhaps relates to bringing things into this realm. That's what it's all about. That's what money's about. Energy, currency, what we currently see, our electric magnetic potential to bring things in. That's what we are. We're creators, and we're bringing things in to this realm. And what are we bringing in? You know, it starts off out here, the from, where it's from, the formless. There's a morph, a changing, called thoughts. And with our thoughts, we speak words, we cast the fate, and we bring it into matter, into form.
Beautiful, brother. You know, I think there's a lot there to unpack. And I want to take what you've been saying and add it to the another idea that I think is quite relevant, because while all of this is happening on the surface, there's something else happening. And so they want to, okay, so just to bring it back, right? Let me pull this off and get this back on here, right? So the 9 cracks the egg. You can't make a pancake without cracking eggs. You need a bit of war. You need a bit of Mars. How does 9 crack the egg? Well, when the speedometer, like I used to have a motorbike, when I was young. It was really naughty. It was like a 550cc with a no, it was a 450cc with 550cc adjustments, racing cams, and special exhaust, and it was a fast little bike. So 450 was a what was it, a Suzuki, and was it, gosh, I can't even remember now. Was it a Suzuki? Was it a Honda? I can't remember. Anyway, no, it was a Honda. I'm talking nonsense. And I can't remember what model it was. But anyway, this bike was fast. And when I'd get onto the freeway, back in those days, there weren't that many cars on the freeway. So if I went to visit my dad, I could open the bike up to the point where I'm going faster than the speedometer will allow. And your clock goes like, click, back to naught, click. And the accelerator is just, it's such a cool feeling watching that accelerator just going, and you're getting faster and faster and faster on the bike. And when I was young, I enjoyed a bit of speed. Thank God I stayed on the bike, touch wood. And I would ride that bike as fast as I could. I would open it up to its maximum, and it had racing components in it, so the bike could handle being pushed, right? It didn't burn out. And it was a big enough engine that it could handle that kind of power. And so the speedometer, I think, on that bike clocked off at 200 kilometers an hour, but I would go like 220 or 230 or 240, whatever I could get out of it. I don't know, but I was going fast. I don't know, what is that in terms of miles? That's like 130 miles an hour, whatever. In my days, Shinobi, you could get onto the freeway and ride a motorbike at 130 miles an hour. Can you imagine how much fun it was? Like, there wasn't that much traffic, you know? And you would be like a computer game. You'd be overtaking cars, you know? It's like, be like the games, but only it's a big game. And yeah, I was terrible as a teenager. Well, I mean, I think I was like 20 at that time. But anyway, my point is, when you get to the maximum thrust, it starts at 0. And so number 9 is the end of the speedometer. It's the end of the throttle. When you get there, it has to cross the event horizon. By crossing the event horizon, it cracks that egg. It's like the sound barrier being broken. Pow. And now you're in a new sound continuum field. And you have to break that sound barrier again to get into a new sound continuum field. That's why if you see a jet flying overhead and it breaks the sound barrier, there's like a sonic explosion. And then if it breaks it again, you'll hear it breaking it. So I've seen them breaking them out to sea. You can hear them from far away when a fighter jet breaks. It's like it goes, bah, it's loud. Even if the jet is far away out to sea, they're not allowed to do it right over where you live. And I have seen a jet coming in from the sea over us after breaking the sound barrier, and all the windows in all of our houses were vibrating. It was like intense, and it wasn't even low, it was high. It causes all sorts of disturbance. That's why they're not allowed to. It didn't break the barrier over us, but it traveled over us supersonic, which they're not actually allowed to do. Caused a lot of problems. People's pets were like passing away and stuff. So anyway, you know, luckily our birds survived. But so 9 is that threshold change. Now, the reason I'm pointing this out is because while they are trying to crack our psychological egg, like Shinobi was pointing out, our spiritual egg, while they're working on our inside, they are also working on our DNA. And how are they working on our DNA? And this is quite interesting in itself, right? So let me pull this up. So in South Africa, while all this is happening, I hope you guys can see this well, right? While all this is happening, yeah, they have introduced this new vaccine, lenacapavir, right? And this is classified as a long-acting pre-exposure prophylaxis, PrEP, PrEP. It's not a traditional preventative, but they say that studies say that it had 100% efficacy. Studies involving over 5,000 young women and girls in South Africa and Uganda found 0 infections amongst those who received the twice yearly injection. So we're talking about trying to prevent HIV, right? So it looks good on the surface, right? So the target population, it was intended for heavily treatment experienced adults individually with HIV that is resistant to multiple existing drug classes, making standard therapies ineffective. Now, South Africa has just announced recently, my girlfriend told me about this only just yesterday, that we are the first approved, and they are now waiting for their stock. They're gonna start rolling this out for our population, and to prevent HIV, which will prevent AIDS. Right? This is what's going on here, and it's the first. So it was created as the first in class HIV capsid inhibitor, right? Designated to interrupt the HIV virus at multiple stages of its life cycle. Okay, right. So it's a pre-exposure prophylaxis. That's what it is. And so how this works is it's targeting the GAG protein. The lenacapavir binds to the interface between the capsid proteins, the monomers, disrupting their proper assembly. Okay. Now, this might sound all very technical, which it is a little bit, but it's important to understand that these proteins, right, are important. And I'm going to show you one more thing, just so you got like a little bit of a hint, and then I'm going to show you another thing. And by the end of it, hopefully it will make more sense to you what I'm driving at here. So it works by inhibiting the HIV capsid's function at multiple stages, including nuclear import, capsid assembly, and uncoating. So how the HIV works is it attaches itself to your actual immune system, right? And it becomes part of your system. So the capsid that this is targeting is the protective outer protein shell of a virus that encloses its genetic material. Right. So the genetic material within the virus is enclosed by the this capsid, and so that creates a boundary between that entity and you, right? And so it's like a box or a container that keeps the viral genome safe from the environment until it can infect its host. So that's basically how this works. Now, this is quite interesting because what this means essentially, right? The key part of how they work is most notably, they do not just prevent the capsid from enclosing they actually cause the capsid to break apart and rupture in the cells. So my point that I'm making is they are messing with the box, the container, right? This is what all of this means. They're messing with the box, the container of the viral form, right? And by messing with the box or the container, they give us this sort of situation where we are now sort of observing that this situation has reached its point. It's en passé, if you will, where the DNA, right, itself is now free floating around inside the cell. I want you to imagine this. So you had a virus that comes in a little pod. It's its own little living organism inside it. What they do is the shell around it that keeps it all together so that it's one organism, they break it up so it splits up, but it's still alive. So you've got all these little bits of living DNA now flowing around in the cell. I don't know what effects that can have after the fact. Does that make sense? And this is a viral, not viral. This is an injection that needs to be taken twice per year. Now, what would the effects be if you've been taking this capsid inhibitor, which inhibits this particular viral DNA? How will that affect our DNA in the long term? Because generally speaking, these things have side effects. This is a new technology. They haven't had time to really look into it very much. They've just noticed that it does what they want it to do, but I don't think they know what else it does, or not the normal doctors, but I'm sure that the people that made it know exactly what else it does. And it makes me wonder, are they going to be hitting us with a new mRNA strain of, the internal bomb? Because now they've bombed us externally. Will they want to bomb us internally again? Remember what happened last time before the internal bombing? They started the external bombing in Ukraine in a big way, didn't they? Am I right? The Ukraine big external bombing started to become a big thing, and people were afraid because obviously a massive war in Ukraine involves Russia. It's going to affect Europe. It's going to affect oil. It's going to affect the price of resources, as it did. Economists were predicting that if this war gets out of hand, it could affect the price of gas, the price of oil, as it did, causing a lot of people in Europe and UK to suffer very badly, not having enough money to heat their homes, if you remember. So all of these things, I think, are connected. And I think them trying to roll out these systems of every 6 months getting an injection that dissolves this capsid. It doesn't just, it literally smashes up the capsid into pieces. I'm not a geneticist. I can't pretend to know the effects of that, but I don't believe that even a geneticist can pretend to know the effects of that, because it's uncharted territory. Any geneticist that pretends to know is probably not being completely altruistic. I would say that with something of such high level of complexity, there are going to be fields of study that are going to reveal a lot of information over the course of this next 5 to 10 years, and we will retrospectively learn about the effects of messing with the capsid. But it's just interesting to know that this is all being rolled out at the same time. And what Mars does is it breaks the outer shell of the egg of the enneagram so that it can start again at number 1. And this capsid is doing exactly what Mars does, number 9, right? But it's doing it internally to the DNA system of these viruses, which is, and so I'm not going to pretend to know too much about genetic viruses and how they work. And I'm not going to pretend to believe the people who say that they do know. I'm not going to pretend to do that either, because I think a lot of BS out there to dazzle brains. My dad had a wonderful saying. He said, bullshit baffles brains. And to this day, his wisdom lives within me. And I see that everywhere I look, it's just BS to baffle our brains. And that's the mission. But then you think it's interesting that, they're rolling out these medicines now. And I wonder whether it's to soften us up for the next round of, maybe they've learned that our shells are too thick, and in order to reprogram our DNA, they need to soften our own shells. And maybe this will have a sympathetic effect on the capsids of our own DNA unexpectedly over a long period of time, that will soften us to the impacts of the next mRNA reprogramming tool, which will be sold as medicine to reprogram DNA. I don't know. And by the way, when you reprogram DNA, you reprogram mind, you reprogram hormones, you reprogram the consciousness, you reprogram the spiritual identity on a fundamental level, because the spirit is manifesting through the DNA field, and it manifests through the DNA field to polarize into a hormonal field and an electrical field. The electrical field is resonating at what? What is it resonating at? There's different frequencies. I know that the optical resonant field is about 20 hertz. The hormonal field is many gigahertz. The DNA field goes many gigahertz up to 10 terahertz. So we've got that high field of vibration between 10 terahertz and 1 gigahertz, which represents our DNA field. And then we've got the megahertz going into the gigahertz spectrum that represents our hormonal field, right? Because everything is vibrating. And then we've got the electrical field, which is a much slower vibrational field. So we've got our thoughts manifesting through our electrical field, which is impulses of electrical potential. And the eye, for example, has to have 20 of these electrical impulse shifts every second, which is why they're hitting us with 60 hertz through the screens we're staring at now. Not that there was a big difference between 60 hertz and 50 hertz, but they had to change it from 50 hertz to 60 hertz. And I remember playing Xbox and PlayStation and thinking, I can't see a big difference between 50 hertz and 60 hertz. But I think there is a big difference in how it affects the brain. And so, you know, it's a more empowered and powerful training tool for entraining the neural pathways. I don't know. What do you think about all of this, dear brother?
Yeah, I think they're trying to create a wedge between our conscious mind and subconscious. I'll say the reason for that in a minute, because I've got a few notes written here. But with the DNA is related to our patterns as well, right? Our genetic code. And what I sense is that people are waking up to patterns. They're sort of stepping off the wheel, so to speak. They're not following the same patterns they've been following for generations. There's lots of people breaking generational patterns. That's my point. So what they need to do, because there's too many people sort of expanding, they need to alter our DNA, because we're accessing dormant potential of dormant coding. This is why they want to block out the sun too, because that's synonymous with our with the light which is inside us as well. So my point in this is that DNA is to do with patterns, and so therefore they need to alter DNA. They have started altering babies' DNA. I think as an embryo, people can change and alter their baby's DNA. Of course, with vaccines, they can do this as well, the RNA. This also relates to nuclear, the nuclear family, nuclear weapons, because the nucleus, so the nucleus is in the core of the cell, and it ties into DNA as well. Sorry, I did have a tab up to explain that. Yeah, the nucleus houses the genetic material of the cell. So that's basically to do with our DNA. And this whole kind of, yeah, exactly, Howard, nukes are fake and gay. Yeah, nukes are, but I certainly believe it relates. When there was talk of nukes in the 50s, that seemed to be when the nuclear family was separated, and now there's talk of nukes. And I think this nukes in the collective is the nucleus, and it's the nucleus is what they're after, because we have nuclear power. It's to do with our solar energy, and this is our nuclear power. Not that these nuclear weapons aren't bombs, like Franklin was saying. They're jabs, and the jabs can alter our weaponry, which is our fire, our nuclear within us. So yeah, it's interesting with what Franklin was talking about with the shells and egg as well, because it reminded me of the realm of shells in the 8th Sophia, which is, of course, 8 Sophia, which ties into our nuclear power and our nucleus and DNA and light codes, which is our wisdom, which ties into the subconscious mind, because we have 95% or so that's our subconscious, 95%. We also have 95% what's called junk DNA, which is really these light codes that we can tap into, and that's our fire within. When we ignite that, we're going to glow. That ties into our etheric body as well, our energy, our chi. This is our nuclear power within, our nuclear fusion within us. That's why they want to try and alter it and change it. And then, so I found out a minute ago, doing some research, that apparently Pluto is dying, apparently. By 2030, Pluto's atmosphere will have frozen and disappeared. So that's interesting, because Pluto is the 9th planet, and the 9 is related to the eye. The eye is like a black hole. It absorbs light. The eye is also associated with the individual, which ties into the realm of shells, which is the collective soup of the we. We are all one. We are all everything, you know. Uniformity opposed to unity. We should all be united. We should all have unity, common ground, but not be uniformed. Not all in sync, doing exactly the same thing. We all have a unique signature, a unique frequency, and we're in a frequency, a C, yes, which is all connected, but we all have our unique signature, and this ties into our coding, our codex inside us, which is our DNA. And yeah, my notes are a bit too skew today to make sense of some of them, but it's interesting to do with the bombs, because the US has a gravity bomb apparently that they've made, which gravity is to do with density. I sense a psyop, you know, gravity, density, psyop, making our minds kind of less dense, feeling heavy, playing with our emotions. They have that weaponry. And apparently the world is going to lose, I think, 7 seconds of gravity on August the 12th of this year. On August the 12th, there's loads of stuff online about how the Earth will lose gravity for 7 seconds. So just around that time, things are going to get a bit more dense. So we'll have to see what they've got planned for us. I wanted to mention the number 9 as well, with the so the number 9. So in German, 9 means no, and no can be like no, don't do that, or it can be to know. So number 9 relating to know, and kind of that bridge of crossing into Pluto, because when you observe with your eye, you can kind of know what's going on, and that ties to gnosis as well. And frankly, I'm not sure if you were around when I was talking about this, but Pluto's atmosphere will have frozen by 2030 apparently, which is interesting, because the start of this solar cycle was 2019, and the end is 2030 of this solar cycle. So our cycle, like this cycle of our soul, like what happened with our souls in 2019 with this cycle, and it ends in 2030, this phase or term or turning of this operation, whatever the fuck it is, artificial. But 2030, Pluto's atmosphere would have frozen over. What could that represent? The Pluto, the subconscious, the hidden, is going to be frozen. That's cold. Fear. Well, are they trying to make us fear our subconscious? Because they said Pluto wasn't a planet, it's a dwarf planet. You know, take that out of, you know, hide that from kids. Don't let kids look into Pluto. But if it's frozen, our subconscious mind frozen, are they trying to make us fearful of or make us fearful, or give us so much trauma that we don't want to cross the rivers in our psyche? And by crossing these rivers, I mean crossing them outwards and coming back inwards, and with this river bringing new light, because how we access these dormant potentials, doorways in our minds, our psyche, is with water. We cross the waters and we bring new light back. We navigate outwards, up, out into outer space, come back into inner space. And this is a constant motion of in, out. This is our toroidal field. And this is all happening out here in our mind. Our mind is outside of our bodies. Our body's in our mind. This is the mind control, isn't in here, it's out here. But when people don't realize that really there's a lot going on out here around us, like with the etheric, the like astral, there's that, this is where the war is. You know, there's a war in the material, but there's also a war up here, around here. You know, there's a lot going on. And it all ties together. But it's what a weird thing, a Pluto being frozen by, or having no atmosphere by 2030. Just that date as well, the end of the solar cycle. The solar, it's the cycle of our soul. You know, we're at such a key time at the moment. Like huge transitions, 9 to a 1 year, all this AI, all of this manipulation and stuff. More and more people are becoming aware of it. And, you know, the good always does win. But my perspective and understanding is that let's try and stop. As I've stopped trying to be like, everyone needs to wake up. Like I've gone through that stage like a few years ago of like getting angry at the ignorance of people. Now I just want to spread awareness, and I think that many people are. Just whoever needs to hear it. Like it's about souls not being lost. It's about learning to die while you're alive, and die just means to change form. Like in Chinese, to die is a butterfly. A butterfly is in a chrysalis, and then it emerges. And I think that people need to start emerging and people are. This is why they're creating this fuel crisis, this energy crisis, because it ripples. What's without is within. What's within is so out. Screwed that up. As within, so without. You know, you get what I'm saying. That this war is in the material, is in our psyche, is in the all mind, it's in the spirit. It's a spiritual war. We know that. But this energy crisis is really to do with our energy, and to stop us, you know, navigating in the world, to stop us traveling, Franklin, not just in the world, but stop us dreaming and traveling out there. And as we go out there, we access codes inside. Going out is in. And then, you know, that's the perpetual motion, as within, so without. And that's how we create. But they're trying to create a wedge, a bridge between us and our manifesting, between us and our etheric body, between us and our life force, chi and energy, and sinking their teeth into us all the ways they can, you know.
You know, I think there's a lot to that. You know, trying to prevent us from moving. And when you were talking, I'll go back to this as well. When you were talking about 9, I just thought it'd be interesting to share here. So we're talking about transformation. We're talking about change, right? You're talking about them trying to prevent us from traveling. Well, what is traveling but a form of change? To travel is to change your surroundings, right? Like we don't actually ever move. This is something that is a misconception. And I first discovered it when I started traveling outside of my body, and everybody else would travel outwards and they go somewhere. And I'd be, well, to me, it seems like I just pull a new piece of the universe towards me. It's like I'm the one thing that doesn't move, and I pull this piece of the universe towards me, and I pull that piece of the universe there, and I pull this universe here, and it feels like traveling, but it's like I'm pulling the universe towards me. That's what traveling seems like for me. Always did. Rather than me going there, it's like I'm going there, but I don't feel like I'm moving. The process of going there feels like I move the universe. So when we travel, we move the universe, we transform the universe. It's sort of like a key integral part. And so this idea that so the DNA loops form in segments of 9. I don't know if you people know this, specifically in 9 nucleotides. They're associated with the structure, and they're associated with the structural intermediates in DNA replication and recombination. And that's like the key. We're talking about replication and recombination, often facilitating the stability of DNA complexes or causing errors when they form a specific short segments. So when you don't have the 9 segments, right? So these, you can cause errors. The fixed single loops of 9 nucleotides located at least 6 nucleotides from a nick have been shown to allow DNA expansion in replication. So this place where you've got these 9 strands of nucleotide that work in loops of 9 segments, right? Segments of 9, loops of segments of 9. Let me get this right. Is where we get error generation. And this is the key to, and just to be clear, right? The expansion in replication, right? So this is what the RNA vaccines are really trying to do. They're trying to change that expansion and control that replication and recombination. Yeah, that's essentially what this is. So when we then take a look at the number 9, and we see, as I say, on the enneagram, we can now see that the physiology and the physics and the biochemistry matches this enneagram, adding more fuel to the fire of why I started calling it the Gabriel ideogram, because he's the guy who made it great again. He made that psychologist's new age enneagram great again. He's gonna love me for saying this. I call that the Gabriel ideogram because it's a symbol, but it's a different one. But here you can see that the activist, that's the activist, which is an activist is something that produces change, right? And so we can see that at the place in our DNA where there are these 9 segments is the point where the change comes into being, right? And so that's sort of like rather quite fundamentally important to understand when we're looking at how this works, because there is this key there's this key component to grasp. And I think one of the key factors of grasping this component is that this power of the vibration of 9 reaches into our DNA and reaches into our psyche and reaches into the elemental matrix of the universe, right? And so when you were talking about the number 9, it's so fundamental. It's on all levels of being. And I've been playing around with a little bit of fun. I've been having a little bit of fun. Ladies and gentlemen, the Bush Whisperer was playing around. Now, I'm not an artist. I don't consider myself an artist, but I'm busy creating glyphs and images for the school that I'm creating. It's called Spiritual Science School. It's the 3 S's, ladies and gentlemen. You're going to see it and you're going to hear about it. And there's going to be all sorts of workshops and lectures going to be coming up. I'm just figuring out how I'm going to do this. But it's going to be about metaphysics. It's going to be about the mechanics of how these things work. And one of the images that I've been playing with here is, and it's important because the Enneagram is where I'm going to start, but I'm going to break it down because there's different ways of coding. And so the pentagram's got its own series of lessons. The septagram's got its own series of lessons. The hexagram's got its own series of lessons, just like the dodecagram has got its own series of lessons too. And so this way I've sort of, why is it not? Oh, I haven't opened it there. I should open the image file. So I'll give you an idea of what it is I've been sort of playing with, and just sort of might give you a taste of the kind of pictures that I got running around in the back of my brain, and that tell tales which are more than just a story, if that makes sense. So here we go. And it might not be perfect, but it's just something that I've been working on. So it's a work in progress. But so we can see here, I don't know if you guys can zoom into this. Yeah. Here I've got the septogram, which cycles around the septogram, the microcosm, reflecting outwards towards the macrocosm, manifesting as the enneagram. As you see, I've created an enneagram of 9 enneagrams that rotate around the septogram. Now, I want you to remember what I said to you about the DNA and the segment chains of nine amino acid chains and how they fit into the 7 mold. It's really important to understand why the number 7 is relevant for the internal journey. And so the spiritual school is going to be about an internal journey, but it's going to be about understanding the outer ring of the enneagram. And so there are the 7 fundamental outer rings of the enneagram to understand if you want to understand the etheric plane. That's why 9 times 7, right, is fundamentally, 7 is the inside. It connects to the 8 around the outside. So the 9 times 7 is the 63, right? Which is the 3 and the 6, which is an expansion of the 3, right? And that expansion of the 3, which is 9, is the fundamental source code of what glues everything together. This restructures as an octagram, and the octagon shape of the universe is really what we see when we look at it. When we look at the time-space mathematics, Nassim Haramein did a fairly good breakdown of it. It breaks down into an octahedron. And you can see this if you break out the flower of life and expand it into the field of the flower of life, the field of flowers, then you can see how the octagon is fundamental to the structure of matter. But it materializes as the enneagram. So the octagon, so here you'll find that you got the 6 in the middle, which is the hexagram. That is the parts of the soul. That is the macabre. That's the part that journeys in and out of the body. But that journey is governed by the principle of 7. The 7, that is the south node. That is Neptune. You notice Venus in the middle is encapsulated by Neptune. This is really important. And this is all in the case of the octahedron. That's the blue one on the outside, right? So the 9 going into the center, the 9 times 6 is 54. 54 is fundamental, right? There are 54 Sanskrit letters. I want you guys to pay attention. We're talking about the astral space, right? When we expand from that, we go to 9 times 7, we got 63. Now we've got the link between the astral and the etheric. That's the 7. Very important. It's got its own set of lessons. Then we expand from that to the 8, right? And the 9 on the outside, compounding to the 8, makes a 72. Now this defines the etheric space. So we've got the etheric space being defined on the outside with the 72. On the inside, we've got the 64. The 6 making the 54. The 54 is essentially what we're looking at when we look at the 108. 108 is just showing both elements, both sides of the 54. And so this is all bound in the center by the septogram. And the septogram is obviously, that's the 7-rayed star. So I'm trying to show people how the enneagram, the octagram, the septogram, and the hexagram are related, and how the astral, the dynamics and mechanics of the astral, the etheric plane are connected, and how the septogram is that link that connects the astral to the etheric. Hence, we speak about the number 7 being the inward journey, right? And that inward journey is so important because then we see, right, that inward journey represents, as we can see very clearly here, right, the path of the mystic. And the path of the mystic, those are the mysteries. And the mysteries are where the elemental energies come together. So that, I think, is, yeah. And you know, Rob, the whole 108 is like the complement of the astral as it expands outside of itself, because it unfolds, so it sees itself. And so the 54 is expressed as polarities of induction and expression of energy. And so the induction and expression of the 54 principles becomes 108. That 108 is the key to the astral plane. But 54 is how it's designed. And the same thing with 72. 72 is the key to the etheric plane, but 36 is how it's designed, right? And so we can see that the 36 is the key to how the etheric plane is designed. And we can see that very clearly when we look at this. This is what I'm trying to show, is this fundamental spiritual relationship of these energetic principles, where we can see that the 7 becomes the key, right? Because the 7 becoming the key, the 9 times 7, that is the 63, right? Now the 63 is fundamental because it warps backwards. You're traveling inwards. When you travel into 63, you come out with 36, right? Because it flips. The universe flips in on itself. It folds in on itself as you travel into it. Because like you were saying earlier, when you go into yourself, you're actually traveling out into the cosmos spiritually. When you travel outside into the physical world, you're actually going more into yourself, because our physical self is inside that thing. We're inside a case. It's a physical case. We think our body stops here. No. The further we go from our body, the further in we're going to the physical. The further we go into our physical, the further we go outside of the physical, the further we go into the mind. So the mind is outside of the physical. It's not inside. We've been taught to think of the mind as being inside the physical, but the way I see it is that the physical is inside the mind. The mind's actually on the outside. So when we're doing an EEG scan on the brain and we're scanning for the mind, which is electromagnetic fields, it's not inside, it's outside, right? This is why we can see auras outside people, why we can see energy radiating outside of people, because it's that outer radiance that we can see, which is the aspect, well, radiating out, radiating inward, however it's working. It's both outward and inward at the same time. Depends on how we cognitively experience it. So I think like this is quite important to understand, the 7 and the 9 connection. And I think the DNA is expressing the 7 and the 9 connection. Now, this Mars principle that we're working with here, right? You were talking about 7 planets in the house of 9, Mars. So there's this subtle elude going on here. And what was the number that you were saying? How many years was it for the Iranian?
47.
47. Okay. Just finding that number interesting, because it's such an unusual number, right?
Well, it equals 11, doesn't it? Yeah.
It does. It adds up to 11. But just, it's such an awkward number for me personally. I don't know if you find it awkward. Like when I want to take that number and put it in my brain, it's very awkward. I'm like, yes, how do I hold this? It's like carrying a funny package. And no matter how you carry the package, it's just not easy, because the package wasn't designed to be carried.
Can I just say what's come to me is 40 is thinking, like thought, like 40. And 7 reminds me of severed. So 47, like severed thoughts. And the thoughts is the force around us, which is our spirit, which is what they're trying to sever. We have the 47th president doing this in Iran, and it's their 47th year. And I said it relates to Independence Day as well. Something may happen then. But yeah, 47, like, Yeah, severing our thoughts. I'm pretty sure there's a series called Severance too, and the image has a man on a computer inside his head. Severance. Yeah, Severance. I've never watched it. Apparently it's pretty cool. The main image is like a guy with his head's cut in half, like no blood, but he's got a man on a computer in his brain. That's the higher self. That's the self for higher. So this 47, severing of our thoughts, severing of the force of our spirit, is so that we don't access or can't access our higher self, and that there's a vacancy, a void, which will be filled by the artificial, and that will be a hired self, which isn't our own self. It's another being inside us manipulating. So that's what the number 47 kind of like signals for me. I don't know what it means numerologically or anything like that, but I do have to go in like 5 minutes. So can I just share this quickly? Because the other day you guys were, well, Indy was drawing some really cool sigils. My laptop ran out of battery and it was really late. I was super tired as well, but I drew this one a while ago, and I just drew it back up now. But this symbol here is Azoth. You have the A, the Z, the O, the T, and the H, and it makes a circle, a square, a triangle, and a cross. So in alchemy, the cross is like a symbol for salt, and then you have the triangle, like the fire in the middle, and then I'm not sure what the square means, like, or the circle really, but I just found it quite interesting that using these 5 letters, I've come up with that symbol there. And of course, the Azoth is the universal like alchemy. It's to do with mercury, sulfur, and salt, but it's the 4th phase. It's all 3 of those, but it's the 4th. It's kind of like plasma, I guess, the Azoth. But yeah, also just quickly, I'll say with the mind and our body being in our minds, another word for the mind is spirit. Like the all is mind, the all is mental, means that just the all is spirit, and that the spirit is the ether, which is the aether. You mentioned the A and the E being masculine and feminine on the round table, right? The aether had the A and the E connected. We don't have words with the A and E connected anymore. They've been separated. So now we have the ether with an E, where it's the aether. And that's where we can get all of our energy from, is the aether. Yeah, that's it. And then with the mind being synonymous with mint and ment and mend, well, the Royal Mint, they just print their own currency. They create their own energy. They just print money. We can do that too by connecting to the ether. And then we used to do that too when we were more advanced. You know, this so-called like apex of humanity right now is bullshit. We were tuned in to the realm. We were tuned into that. We were connected to the ether, grounded to the earth, and we will once get there again. But like the Royal Mint creates currency, we can do that too by tapping into the all mind, the spirit, and then creating, you know. So yeah, just a heads up, I need to go in a couple of minutes. I need to shoot into town.
Yeah, brother, totally. And I was just going to say, we've gone over the 2 hours. We said we were going to only be 2 hours or hour and a half, 2 hours. We got carried away. I saw a cool meme for getting carried away the other day, which was a thing like a creature coming down and grabbing you and like dragging you, flying off with you. You got carried away. We got carried away. But I think like that is quite a good observation, a good spot with the A and the E and the way they've been separated, and the Azoth, you know. And I thought I'd seen the word Azoth in other places. I think it's also a gaming keyboard. So you'll notice they do this. They take words that we're going to research and they turn them into technology-based stuff,
Yeah.
which is quite interesting. You know, they want us to sort of be completely focused on, you know, their particular versions of whatever. So if you put like a Zorth, I don't know if you'll find it. No, you won't. But I'm sure I've seen it. I'm sure I've seen a keyboard like advertised, because the reason is I was looking at keyboards a while ago, man. I'm sure I saw the word Zorth there on a keyboard, and I was like, huh? Interesting that they got alchemical terms on keyboards. But you will probably find that there is one that's similar to it, if not the same word. And I think that there's definitely this desire to break our chain, proverbially, to separate us from each other. So yeah, man, it's been a great little chat. I hope you guys in the chat got what you came for. I hope you enjoyed the conversation. We'll definitely be back next time, and we'll try and keep the chats to under 2 hours. We promise we will try. It in the beginning when the roundtables were happening, they were like 7, 8 hours. I think we had 9-hour long roundtables, sometimes 8 hours, 7 hours, 6 hours. And slowly I managed to bring it down to like 4 hours. So now we're supposed to be 4-hour roundtables on Saturdays. Sometimes they go a bit longer, but the goal is that they're not more than 4 hours for you guys, because like it's really unfair for us to do long lives. Because like people got lives to live. It's like my mom said to me, "What are you doing like 8-hour live for? Like people don't have time for this." I was like, "Yeah, we couldn't help it, man. We got carried away." We get so into it.
Also, as well, like some of these topics you can't really talk about for like in an hour. That you have to unpack the information fully, and also like it's called unscripted because we just like as we're talking, like me myself personally, I come up with things about I've never thought of before. It's not like this is scripted and we're reading and it's stuff that, well, from my personal view, things that I actually know about. I'm always learning as we're talking, and then new things come to me and I'm like, okay, I've got to share this and see how it goes. Sometimes I'll start talking and I'll be like, oh yeah, actually that doesn't really fit. But it's just kind of working it out as we go, and that's why we need a few hours to kind of, tap into the well, tap into the tree and kind of going in, and like the more and more we talk, the more and more like closer we get to the crux of the matter. But we never really get there. That's not the point. The point is the journey, the journey that we take going exploring all of these places. I just need to mention with Severance, Ents are tree spirits, like wise. I always associate Ent with spirit. Whenever I hear like something Ent, like ment, of course, is mind, is spirit, but Ent I always associate with spirit. So Severance, Sever Ents, severing spirit. It's in the name. What I was mentioning with the 47 and severing thoughts, that's how I got to Severance. I'm gonna have to go check out that series at some point because I've heard it's quite good. It's got a concept.
Thanks for that. I saw it. I saw the word severance somewhere. I just like, I don't really, but it's worth going to watch a series like that because we're probably going to turn it into like 50,000 podcasts. No, I'm exaggerating, but 50,000 seconds of podcasting. Maybe that's realistic. I don't know. I don't even know if that's realistic. But you probably discuss it a number of times. But yeah, thank you, everybody. I hope you guys are going to have a lovely day and a lovely week, and keep it real, keep it sweet. And as always, thank you for joining us. It's been an honor. Do share this video. Also, do me a favor, if you would, after the video, just make a comment and say, lovely, thank you, it was great. Or whatever, like you're a bastard. You need to change your hairstyle, whatever. Because it helps to get people to see this video. And if you could share it somewhere, that's also cool as well. Anywhere where you can share. I think these kind of conversations are necessary because we're living in an AI age where everything is scripted, everything is prescribed, everything is preformed, prefabbed, pre-boxed, pre-organized, pre, turning adults into pre-primary, you know? And that's where they want us dumbed down. They don't want us thinking. They want us just blinking. They want us blinking with the blinkers on, lots and lots of blinking. Every time you blink, you missed something. Blink, 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 blink. They want us to blink ourselves out of existence so that they can get that higher self going for us. Another wonderful term that you're throwing some light on, because I've never liked the word higher self. I always saw higher self. It's like the higher self, the self that hires, that you've hired, that hires you, the self that hires you, and you become its employee. You fall for the ploy. And of energy, you fall for the ploy of energy of the higher self, and it's now higher than you. So you can't be that. That can't be you. It's up there. It's higher. Instead of just being yourself, being your genuine who you are, your real, true inner self. So with that, big love, big blessings, peace, honor, and respect to all of you. Take it easy. Keep smiling. Keep the smile alive, and don't forget to shine, because shining is how we make the world better. Om Shanti. Thank you all.